There we go. Welcome, YouTubers. All right. Hey, YouTubers. I'm here. Let me get TikTok, and we are set. Starting a little late. We'll live. There's Matthew. All right. Live. Just getting TikTok set up. Live. One sec here. Those are funny. Beep, 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 beep. Sorry, one sec. I'm just looking to see what the heck are those. I don't see what that is. No idea what that is. All right. Good. All right. TikTok's going live, and we are live. Excellent. Are you getting in? Oh, you are getting light. Sorry. I just realized that. I've got to put my shirt on the window. I'm spacing out. One second. I think I can put my fleece on the window. I forgot Hello. I like to cover my window up so the sun doesn't come in and totally forgot about it. So one moment. There we go. That's better. I was wondering why I was getting sun in my, like on my camera on YouTube. And I was like, what the heck's that about? That's what that was about. All right. Oops. There we go. All right. I'm going to keep hitting this freaking camera. It's going to annoy me. All right. I need to just stop playing with the microphone. Maybe that'll do it. Anyway. All right, guys, welcome back. There, I got TikTokers now. We are all set. Come on, TikTok. Woo. Everybody's set. All right. Welcome, guys. It's Tuesday, May 5th. Oh, it is. Oh, May 6th. All right. Yesterday was Cinco de Totally forgot yesterday was Cinco de Mayo. Oh, well, what do you do? Big drinking day in America. I'm not a big drinker, but I will have a drink or two sometimes. Anyway, hello all. Hey, TikTokers. How are we all doing today? Discord, YouTube. We're all here now. Callum is on his way back home. He may be close to there at this point. They got married yesterday here in DC. The baby was adorable. I did not get any pictures of the baby, which I totally should have, but the baby was absolutely adorable. I'm going to adjust my camera slightly. Oh, I can just do this. That's true. That's okay. Yeah, that works. Good enough. Their baby is just ridiculously adorable. So that was very nice too. All right. Everything is copacetic. Good. So, we've got an okay amount of news today. Yesterday, there was like no news at all. India kind of invaded Pakistan a little bit. They didn't invade. They attacked. Didn't invade. They attacked. But we'll talk about that. Not a lot of news to report on it, but it's news. Then we're going to get a little bit Trump and the Houthis. Canadian Prime Minister was here in the States. The Russians are preparing for their May 9th celebration where they celebrate the lie that they single-handedly won World War II when they helped start World War II by being allies with the Germans. We're not supposed to tell anybody that, but it's true. So we'll talk about that, some Ukraine updates, etc. Yeah, it'll be a cold day in hell if I grow a mustache, Mac, just for officially. So thank you, Laddie, for the gifts. Thank you, Richard. Let's get rolling. So welcome, guys. The way the show works is I go through the latest news from Washington that I think is relevant. A lot of it's international based, especially the international news. We talk about Ukraine, the war in Ukraine, about Russia, a lot of that stuff, Europe. Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you, Adventures. Thank you, Larissa Martin. Please do keep the gifts coming like you're doing on TikTok right now. I do this for a living. Your gifts help pay the bill. Also for TikTokers, actually YouTube as well. Like the broadcast, hit the heart button, whatever the hell it is on TikTok. I don't forget if it's a like on TikTok. On YouTube, I think it's a like button. Recommend or the thumbs up on YouTube. Also on TikTok, maybe share it, which is not a bad thing either. Oh, thank you, Blue, for the gifts. Thank you, Joy, Max, Jorge, Nicholas, Jocelyn, others. So let's get rolling. Yeah. So welcome, guys. India early today conducted some attacks on Pakistan, inside Pakistan, also on the border in the Kashmir region, which is like disputed between the two countries. Not a lot to report on that. I mean, basically, there was a terrorist attack a few weeks ago. The Indians in India, tourists were killed. The Indians blaming the Pakistanis, Indian-Pakistan animosity going back to the colonial times with the Brits and all, and then Pakistan broke. I'm not such an expert on the history, but I know Pakistan broke away from India and war, blah, blah, blah. They remain not friends, or certainly not very friendly to this day. The Indians blame the Pakistanis for the terrorist attack, and India is finally getting even today by launching these attacks inside Pakistan, but also along the Pakistani border of the disputed region. Fat Assassin says Pakistan has shot down 2 Indian fighter jets. Yeah, I mean, we looked at this the other day. Pakistan has less of a military than India. India's military way outclasses Pakistan's, but doesn't mean Pakistan has nothing. So they could certainly. It is possible that they would have been able to shoot down some Indian fighters. Yeah, a little scary. They're both nuclear countries. They both have decent sized military, so it's not like Pakistan has nothing. That's kind of where it is. I mean, the problem is, of course, that Pakistan now will feel the need to respond. Will India respond? And this turn into a bigger war? It could. Trump announced something today, which, if he's not lying, is good news. It's Trump, so this could be a total lie. But if it's the truth, it's good news. The Wall Street Journal reports that Trump says the U.S. has reached a truce with the Houthi rebels in Yemen and will suspend its airstrikes there. Oman said it helped Washington mediate a truce in which the two sides agreed not to target each other. And the militant group said it would stop firing on U.S. ships in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. The U.S. has conducted daily strikes on the rebels since mid-March. Both U.S. and Houthi officials suggested that the truce didn't pertain to Houthi attacks on Israel, which have prompted retaliation. So that's good news. Again, I don't really trust Trump, but if he did reach a ceasefire, that's a good thing. Trump met with the Canadian Prime Minister today, Prime Minister of Canada, the new guy. Is it Mark Carney? Maybe, if I'm getting that correct. Was in Washington today meeting Trump. The Prime Minister made clear to Trump that Canada was not for sale, which I think is a good thing. Merz is apparently the guy that we all thought was going to be the Prime Minister, or I should say the Chancellor, which is Prime Minister, basically, leader of Germany. Merz, I think it's Friedrich, because I always think Fred Merz, which makes me laugh, but Friedrich Merz maybe, it looks as of today that he is now going to be the Chancellor. I don't know when, Friedrich, yep. I don't know when it is that he gets actually appointed, but it looks like sort of any doubt that was remaining got wiped out. At least that was according to the press today. He is very good on Ukraine, by the way. Chinese goods. So there was an interesting article from AOL talking about what Chinese goods might become scarce in the U.S. as a result of Trump's tariffs. Now, keep in mind that the tariffs on China are still in place. Trump, again, this was so freaking confusing because he waffled and he went back and forth on his tariffs. But basically, Trump has tariffs on every country in the world but Russia, pretty much. And a 10% tariff on pretty much everybody but Russia. And he has significant tariffs, crazy tariffs on China, 145%, that pretty much shut down all trade with China, between China and the U.S. A tariff, as you'll recall, is a tax on U.S. goods. So it's a tax that either U.S. consumers pay or U.S. companies that import these goods into the U.S., but the U.S. pays this tax. And basically, it's shutting down trade with China. What AOL did is they looked at what are some of the top goods that we should be worried about. So let's find out. The down feathers. 77% of the country's total imported supply of down comes from China. No clue that was the truth. So down feathers come from China. Toy games and sports equipment. We knew this. 73% of the country's total imports come from there. Listen to this line from the Wall Street Journal. No, this is from AOL. The trade war could spell shortages in children's toys come Christmas time. Experts as well as President Trump have warned. There was a really interesting article today. I can't remember which paper because I read a number of them. Thank you, NIH or NIHU. Thank you, Lynn, for the gifts. But it was saying that Trump has basically changed his tune now. That Trump was being all, we're going to have the best economy ever. It'll be amazing. And now he's all doom and gloom because he's been told his tariffs are going to cause a recession and they're going to cause inflation to go through the roof. And he's preparing people for it. He is trying to now claim it's Biden's fault, which is funny because, well, here's the problem. Even if people weren't happy with Biden, they know that inflation was a problem and then it went away. They know that the economy was doing well. They know that their stocks were doing well, right? They know that unemployment was doing well. It's not now, and the stocks aren't. And inflation is now starting to go up. And we know that we're in danger of a recession. And we know that we're starting to have shortages of goods, that we're going to have shortages of goods. All of that is very scary to people. I think Trump, as effective a liar Trump is, I still think he's going to have a hard time blaming all of this on Biden. Nonetheless, more toys, sports equipment, footwear. The U.S. is highly reliant on China for shoes. It imports almost $10 billion worth. 36% of footwear sold. 36% of footwear sold stateside. 36% of the shoes sold in America come from China. 36%. They're pretty much gone now. Okay. Adidas has warned that it expects to raise prices for U.S. customers because of tariffs. Cutlery, dinner utensils made in China could start to become scarce. Glassware, almost 30% of U.S. imports of glassware and other products made of glass come from China. So we won't be eating with forks and knives or drinking out of glasses. Furniture and bedding comes from China. And apparel, we know textiles, clothing comes from China as well. So not good news. Not good news. Thank you, Mustard, for the gift. That is it for the... There still isn't, there's news. There isn't a ton of news today, to be honest. That's it for the U.S. news. We could always talk about this a little bit if you want. Thank you, Mustard. Well, Xbox is going up. I'd read that, Jim. Yeah, Jim says Xbox is going up $80 to $100 on their already released systems. I saw that they're also raising the price on the games I saw by like 10 or 20 bucks as well. So yeah, Xboxes are going up. Guys, we're going to have significant inflation. iPhones, I don't know. iPhones, they're trying to see what they can do to import iPhones otherwise from India instead, made in India instead of made in China. But, you know, let's see. It's going to be very bad. Not to mention, by the way, 10% of every good in the world that we import in this country, other than Russia, there's a 10%. I should say there is a 10% tax on every good coming in from every country in the world. So our economy was already hit with a 10% inflation. The thing is, okay, Trump lies about this, as we said, and it's important to keep reminding people because Trump says, he said the other day, we're going to be rich. We're going to be rich with all the money we raise. Yeah, he's raising the money because he put a massive tax on you. That's how he raised the money. That's how Trump is raising money with taxes. The tariff tax will be paid by American businesses and American consumers. It's not paid by foreigners. It's something that you and I pay when we import goods here. If we buy goods from abroad, from China now, and they get imported here, we will have to pay a tax of 145% on those goods. That is what the tax is. So either American consumers or American companies that import the goods are going to have to pay this tax. And if they do, they're going to pass it to you and me because they can't afford to not pass it along. You can't add 145% tax onto something and not pass it along. For example, a 145% tax would be something that cost $100 would now have a $145 tax on it. So a product that cost $100 for you to buy and import into the U.S., you'd pay $100 for the product, and when it got to the U.S. border, you would pay another $145 tax. That's how the tax works. That's how big it is. Imagine if you're a company and you're importing things in. And like I said, keep it easy, $100. You're importing a bunch of products and you paid $100 for each item, and you're importing them from China. Normally, your profit is already, maybe your profit's $20. Who knows what your profit is? Your profit's built in. Well, now you've got to pay $245 for those products instead of $100. How are you going to afford that? You can't afford to sell that product unless you raise the price. That's the problem. Any case, UK just made a free trade agreement with India. Oh, that's interesting. That's very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, well, prescription meds too. Jorge's talking about anxiety meds that were $9 are now going to be $18. That's another problem. Trump has not announced the details yet, but he announced that he's planning on increasing the price of prescriptions in America. He thinks we don't pay enough for our prescriptions. And basically, a lot of the prescriptions we get that are generics, for example, come from abroad, India, maybe even Europe, other places. And Trump thinks we're not paying enough for prescriptions. So he is going to put a massive tax. He announced this 3 weeks ago. He's going to put a massive tax on prescriptions coming into the U.S. so that he so massively raises the price of your prescriptions, you will not have a choice but to buy an American. Oh, Ireland too? I did not know that. You will not have a choice but to buy American prescriptions. The problem is, and I've explained this before, we buy foreign prescriptions because they're cheaper. Okay? For example, I actually ought to go and get a specific drug because it would be interesting to find a specific example. But generically speaking, pun intended, you pay $10 for a prescription for a month, and it's a generic, and it comes from abroad, $10. The American version of the drug costs maybe $30. Well, obviously, you're going to buy the Indian version because it costs $10. And we buy the Indian version. Trump doesn't want that. He wants us to buy the American version. So what he would do, for example, if there were an American drug that cost $30 a month and an Indian drug that costs $10 a month, all he has to do is put a big enough tax on the Indian drug to make it cost more than the American. So if the Indian drug is down here and the American's here, costs $10. Let's say he puts a $30 tax on the Indian drug. The Indian drug now becomes $40. Well, the $30 American drug is looking a little nicer now. So we would pay $30. We would instead buy the American drug, but our price is going up from $10 to $30 for that drug. That's insane. He thinks we're not paying enough for prescription drugs, and he is going to tax us to raise the price of prescription medications. That is absolutely crazy, diabolically nuts. I mean, it is. The thing is, the companies need to, well, I guess you will know anyway, because you'll know the medications you buy every month. You will know if that price goes through the roof compared to what you're paying previously. Really just unbelievable. Unbelievable what he's doing. Anyway, let's talk about, well, let me see here. I'm trying to see, we could always talk a little bit more about this. Otherwise, I'm moving over to Ukraine next. Well, not moving to Ukraine, but moving to discussing Ukraine. Anything else on this topic, or should we move over to Ukraine and then come back about sort of all of this overall? Yeah, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., exactly. Your drug prices are $545 a month? Wow. Your U.S. drugs? Wow. Has Russia basically lost the war already? The war is kind of a stalemate, with Russia very, very, very slowly advancing. So that it's not clear how Russia can win, meaning taking all of Ukraine, but it's also not clear how Ukraine can, basically, Russia cannot advance very far. I mean, very slowly advance. But Ukraine cannot advance against Russia either. So it's a stalemate that leans a little bit Russia's way. Mia says, I'm listening from Sweden. Is your president doing anything good? No, not really. It's possible, we heard today, it's possible that he brokered a ceasefire with the Houthi rebels. If he did, that's probably good. There was something the other day he did. I forgot what it was, if anybody can remember. Something the other day he did that was, I think, good. Oh, it might have been Ukraine. He's selling some more weapons. He is going to sell a small amount of weapons to Ukraine. That's good. Other than that, not really. No, we're still evil. We're still evil. Very sad. Very sad. I did not see anything about another Ukrainian offensive, Jay. About a week ago, we were hearing that Ukraine, or a week or two, we were hearing that Ukraine might have been going into Oh, I'm tired. Right across from Kharkiv. Help me out. Mustards. One of you guys will remember. What's the? I'm totally spaced out today. The region right across from Kharkiv. Kursk is the one further north. You guys know. But there. No. Kursk is Belgorod. Thank you, Martin. Belgorod. We had heard a couple weeks ago that maybe the Ukrainians were pushing into Belgorod, which was a different Russian region. They were trying to grab some land, but then we haven't really heard anything in over a week about that. So I don't know. But yes, Belgorod is the region. Let's start talking Ukraine, since we're talking Ukraine. This is actually very interesting. Russia is still talking about doing its. I have the map. We have the map. I do have the map handy. We can show you. So Belgorod is right here next to Kharkiv. Kursk is up here. So Kursk is the region Ukraine was already in, that the Russians are slowly kicking them out of. Ukraine still controls some land. And Belgorod is the Russian region right here that the Ukrainians might be screwing around with. Hard to know. The Russians are still planning on doing their 72-hour ceasefire for May 9th day. May 9th is the day the Russians celebrate the victory over the Germans in World War II. It's ironic because the Russians were allies with the Germans in World War II. The Russians signed a secret pact with the Germans in World War II where they promised not to attack Germany and basically gave Germany permission to start World War II, because the Germans were worried if they started World War II, if they'd have to fight the Russians too, that would be really hard. And the Russians said, don't worry, we're not going to fight you. You go have fun in Europe. Springtime for Germany, you go for it. And the Germans did. After 2 years, the Germans turned around and attacked the Russians, their friends, and the Russians went, oh, this kind of sucks. So the Russians then were at war with Germany because Germany attacked them. Otherwise, they were Germany's friends. What happened? Then the U.S. stepped in, the Brits stepped in, probably maybe other countries too for Lend-Lease. We helped Russia out to an insane degree. We kept Russia afloat. Russia did fight the Germans, who were their allies, but whatever. But they had to fight them. And Russia did a good job fighting the Germans after Russia was an ally of Germany and started World War II. But the U.S. and the Brits kept Russia afloat. The Russians never like to talk about that we saved their butts. And finally, the Russians also don't like to talk about the fact that when World War II ended, they took half of Europe hostage. So all those countries they freed, they turned into evil communist dictatorships that killed their own people for 45 years. So, that's what May 9th is about. May 9th is about Russia being backhanded allies with the Germans in World War II and taking half of Europe hostage in brutal dictatorships for 45 years. Nice people. So the Russians are talking about having a ceasefire for 72 hours surrounding May 9th, which is their big, I think it's Friday, 6, 7, 8, 9. This coming Friday is the day they're celebrating. They have their big military parade in Moscow. They're inviting foreign leaders. We're going to talk about that in a second. What is interesting is what a lot of people, what the Ukrainians are claiming and a lot of the experts think is that the reason the Russians want a 3-day ceasefire around the time of the May 9th celebration is they're afraid of the Ukrainians attacking Moscow during the May 9th celebration, which is so classic. Oh, we'd love a 3-day ceasefire so you don't attack our parade and make us look stupid. So that's a big reason why the Ukrainians are saying, no, we're not going to do it. They think it's the reason the Russians are doing it. Also very interesting. Thank you, Ibuli. Get to that in a sec. Also very interesting. The Ukrainians, the last 2 nights in a row, have been attacking Moscow with drone attacks, looking like they're basically, causing more concern for the parade, which is fascinating. Listen to who's coming, by the way. I've got the list of who's attending the celebration in Moscow on Friday. Now, last year, only 9 world leaders showed up. This year, there's 29, so it's more. But most of them are irrelevant. There's only a handful of relevant leaders that are coming, and I want to read you the list because it's very small. And actually, Hungary is not showing. The wannabe dictator of Hungary is not going, which is surprising because he's super pro-Putin. But listen to this. The only countries that matter that are going, Brazil, China, it figures, Egypt, kind of annoying, but what do you do? Palestine, I thought that was kind of funny because, if you think you're being like the victim of a genocide, maybe you shouldn't be allies with people who commit genocide. I'll put that out there with the Palestinians. They need to pick their friends a little better. And finally, Slovakia, which is not surprising. We knew Slovakia is now run by a pro-Russian stooge, kind of Eastern European communist type, as far as the type, not the philosophy, but the type. But that's it. Brazil, China, Egypt, Slovakia are the only 4 countries that matter that are going. That's it. Nobody else. I mean, literally, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Bosnia, Congo, Cuba, Ethiopia, Guinea-Bissau. None of these countries matter. I mean, the only 4 that matter are Slovakia, Egypt, China, and Brazil. And that's it. The stands are going. Nobody cares about the stands. They're going, but who cares? Right? I mean, I've got 29 countries. I'm not going to read off 29 irrelevant countries. You know what I mean? I'm just telling you the countries that matter. Nobody cares if Kazakhstan goes. I mean, it would be funny if Kazakhstan didn't go because of the ties to the former Soviet Union. But Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan are going. But again, Uzbekistan as well, Turkmenistan, they're all going. I guess it would only be interesting if they weren't going, right? I wouldn't consider it news that they're going, right? Anyway, so that was very interesting. Borat's visiting. This was kind of interesting. So I don't know that Trump had a hand in this, but it's interesting. Trump says that he believes the price of oil is a key factor in efforts to secure peace in Ukraine. The price of oil is down $15 a barrel since the start of this year. Hugely important for Russia because the Russian economy runs on oil. 40% of Russia's federal budget is, thank you, Randy, Fred, for the gift. Keep the gifts coming, guys. I do this for a living. Your gifts pay the bills, so thank you. 40% of Russia's its federal budget comes from oil and gas sales, comes from energy sales. So the fact that oil prices are going down is horrific for Russia at a time when they've got their war machine going full hilt. It's very interesting. So, but this from Trump, I thought was interesting. I mean, it's true what Trump is saying, but I thought it was interesting. He says, I think Russia, with the price of oil right now, oil has gone down. We are in a good, it's Trumpian English. I'll put it that way. Listen, okay, one more time. I think Russia, with the price of oil right now, oil has gone down. We're in a good position to settle. They want to settle. Ukraine wants to settle. So in English, what he means is the price of oil is putting pressure on Russia to settle, because if they don't have it, as much revenue, they can't keep their war machine funded. That's interesting. Thank you, Real Life. Thank you, Big Hawk. Thank you. What was that? Oh, Ash did the Penguin. Thank you, Ash. User 336. Good to see you. Randy Fred. I don't know whether Trump had anything to do with the price of oil, but it's interesting. Here's why it's interesting. Trump is basically lauding the fact that Russia is hurting. He's happy that Russia is hurting by losing money from oil sales. And he's acknowledging that maybe that's putting pressure on Russia for peace. And he's acknowledging that Russia needs pressure for peace. From a Trump perspective, that's interesting, right? Because typically Trump is on his knees sycophanting to Russia. He's not, right? He's bowing. He's not usually standing up and saying, this is good, you're getting hurt. That's very interesting what he's saying. So that was good news. What else we got? European Union is planning to ban new Russian gas deals by the end of the year, Reuters is reporting. And finally, the final story I wanted to talk about. Thank you, Annie. Thank you, PC, Maeve, etc. Do share the live again, guys. Hit that like button, share it. Everything else on TikTok, follow me as well. YouTube, same thing. Hit that little arrow up thing, and if you can share it too. But because I'm always kind of curious on TikTok if we can get more people by sharing. I also think sometimes the following. Thank you guys for following. I can see the follows now. I think the following too. I'm always curious whether it gets more people to show up, like whether the For You page, because like TikTok today's a little better, but TikTok's been bearing my stuff for the last week. You never know with them. They're tricky. They're tricky. Am I Canadian? I am not Canadian. I'm American. I'm American, but I'm a good American who likes Canadians and likes Canada. So if that helps, but I am definitely not Canadian. I'm Greek American. All right. So thank you, Bobby, for the gift. Oh, that's funny, Zerpachi. Exactly. One thing helps. My mom used to ask that. I forget it was on YouTube or somewhere. She's like, does it, or my blog, like hitting a like button on my blog or something. She's like, does it help? I'm like, doesn't hurt, you know? So, oh, hey, Noni. Good to meet you. All right. This last story was interesting. Kind of amazing story from Sky News. I'm just going to read it to you. And then you know what? Sorry, 1 second. We've got iBully's question or comment first. I know this show is about U.S. and Ukraine, but I do want to say India and Pakistan. I mentioned them at the very beginning, actually. Sky News just confirmed that they have started shelling each other. Yes, I mentioned at the beginning of the show that India had bombed Pakistan, inside Pakistan, and also the Pakistani side of the Kashmir disputed region. I did not see that India responded, but I did say I'm expecting Pakistan. I expect Pakistan to attack them back. So yes, we do know that. We don't know if it's going to get bigger. We don't know whether it's just tit for tat. We do know India's military is way bigger and stronger than the Pakistani one. Doesn't mean the Pakistanis can't cause some damage, but it means the Indians can really cause damage if they want. So, let's see. But yes, thank you, iBully, for that. So final story from Sky News. Listen to this. A map, India, true. Well, Pakistan, northwestern, as I recall, India, Pakistan is the northwestern corner. Or on the northwestern corner. Pakistan has fired back. Okay. Chris is saying the same thing somebody said earlier. Pakistan claims they downed 2 Indian fighter jets. Yeah, let's see. I mean, the danger is that, like I said, Pakistan can cause some damage, but the Indians are so much bigger, Oh, hey, Noni. Que cool. I actually understood that without the translate. So Sky News, listen to this. Facing a 10-year prison sentence for speaking out against the war, Ekaterina Barabash was kept under house arrest in Moscow. She's a Russian journalist. After disappearing on the 21st of April and fears that she may have died, she resurfaced yesterday in Paris, where she detailed her escape from Russia. So this is a Russian journalist who Putin was going to imprison, and she escaped the country. With the help of Reporters Without Borders, also known by its French acronym, she tore off her electronic tag, so they must have put like an ankle bracelet on her or something, and navigated more than 2,800 kilometers, which would be like 1,600 miles, using clandestine routes to evade surveillance. The Facebook posts that landed her in trouble were written between 2022 and 2023, and they railed against Russia's actions in Ukraine. This is an example of the Facebook post that got her thrown in jail in Russia. So you effing bombed the country, razed entire cities to the ground, killed 100 civilians, shot civilians for no reason, blockaded Mariupol, deprived millions of people of a normal life, and forced them to leave for foreign countries, all for the sake of friendship with Ukraine. Now, if we were at war, that would piss people off. You wouldn't go to jail. Now, Donald Trump might try to throw you in jail. That's a different question. But generally speaking, in America, you can't go to jail for saying something like that. In Russia, you can, because Russia's a dictatorship. She spent 2 weeks in hiding and reached France on April 26th, her birthday. The most difficult part was knowing she was leaving her 96-year-old mother behind. Quote, "I just understood that I'd never see her again," she said, adding that they both decided that not seeing her mom again was less important than her fleeing a Russian prison. Wild story. But I mean, she traveled 1,600 miles in order to get away. And Reporters Without Borders, what's interesting to me is they were able to basically get her out of Russia, which I don't know how one does that. You know, that was very interesting. All right, hold on, guys. I'm trying to adjust my camera a little bit. Oh, that's not bad. That's not bad, actually. Okay, oops, microphone. Oops. I'm like moving things around here. There we go. Okay, everything's good here. All right, good. All right. Anyway, yeah, scary story, but she's free, which is nice. Thank you for the surfing penguin. That article was, I will bet, Sky News. Yes, that was Sky News. That was in Sky News. I'm sure others have it, but Sky News did a nice write-up on it, so you might as well check it out. Oops. Sorry, I'm still trying to figure out my camera here. Hold on. All right, good enough. I'm trying to lots of technology running all over the place here. I don't want to, okay, stop it. All right, I'm going to leave the mic where it is. I'm going to assume the mic is good enough. Yeah, her book, can you imagine the book Escaping from Russia? Jesus, crazy. Anyway, Belarus is listed on the countries going, but nobody cares. It's not news. There's 29 countries going to Moscow for the liberation, for the May 9th thing, but most of them, nobody cares. Who cares that Belarus? Of course, Belarus is going. You know what I mean? It's not news. So I did not mention it. A woman reporter returned dead. I don't know about that. The desk setup does have a mind of its own. Yes. Well, the problem is I've got like a boom mic for my microphone. I've got the camera thing, and they intersect and, knock each other out of the way, which is annoying. So, because I'm used to using my mic with my hand when I talk to you guys. So it's hard because it is going to interfere with the camera, but it should be okay right now. Anyway, it would be news if last year, like I said, only 9 countries went. So it's news that 20 more are going, but it's still almost nobody. And Hungary not going shocks me. I would have thought the Hungarian wannabe dictator would have gone. That was a big surprise. What else we got, guys? So this is the part of the show we hang out. We talk about whatever you want, assuming I have any idea what's going on to talk about it. But like I said, U.S. politics, international stuff. What do we got? What do we have? I don't know. Why do you say that, Rudy? Rudy says, I thought because of the mineral deal with the U.S., Russia's basically effed. I mean, the mineral deal is interesting because it makes things a little more complicated for Russia. I don't know right now. It'd be interesting to find out, where is everything in Russia, in Ukraine that we've got that this deal applies to. And because it puts Russia in a bad position if Russia is going to take over land that's covered by the mineral deal with the U.S. Because all of a sudden that means Russia's taking away a financial interest that Trump has. That's very interesting. So it makes no sense. Exactly, mommy, your mommy. It makes no sense why the Hungarian dictator would not show up. It's very weird, India did just attack Pakistan. Yep. All the news reported about an hour ago. Yep. And we'll see kind of what happens next with that. Thank you for the oyster. Who's that, Marsha? Thank you. I want to pull up my news while we're talking here. Yep. Canadian Premier met with Trump. We know that. Told him Canada wasn't for sale, which was good. Well, India did it because somebody did a massive terrorist attack in India that killed a lot of people. So the Indians were not thrilled, and the Indians blamed the Pakistanis. So, Whether Pakistan was behind the attack, I don't know. But India certainly had, I don't want to say they had justification because it depends if Pakistan's to blame. But you know, you know, Prime Minister is Premier. It's the same thing. Yeah, unless you're Canadian, in the rest of the civilized world, Prime Minister literally means Premier. Premier means Prime Minister. Like, it also means leader overall. It really does. In Canada, it doesn't. In the rest of the world, it does. Premier means Prime Minister. It also means leader of a country in foreign policy speak. In Canada, it means you're the head. It means governor. Correct. In Canada, it means you're a governor or something. Correct. But not in the rest of the world. But we still say Premier, so I'm going to say Premier. Yep. You guys are weird. We're generally the weird ones. It's usually us that we're the ones being weird. This time, Canada's the one using the phrase that's a little bit different. I don't know enough about the India-Pakistan thing. What I mean is, I don't know enough whether Pakistan was behind the attack on the Indians. The Indians, like I said, had a horrific terrorist attack a while ago. And it's not, oops, this is not logged in. You better log in. I'm trying to log into my New York Times here. 1 second. Hello, New York Times. I don't know. God damn it. I already subscribed. What are you doing? Damn New York Times. What are you doing? Oh, you're pissing me off. What the hell's that? Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Now it's trying to get me to subscribe to a newspaper I already subscribed to. New York Times. Pissing me off here. Don't do this. How do I log in? Oh my God. Now all it's going to do is get me to subscribe. I'm already a subscriber, you gilipollas, as we say in Spanish. Oh, frack me. I can't, there's no section here for me to subscribe to. This is unbelievable. There it is. There it is. All right. Log out. All right. One more time. That's the problem. Log out. All right. Evil New York Times. Log in. No. Google. There we go. All right. Now we're rocking. It should be my Google subscription. There we go. All right. Here we go. Today, India, Pakistan. All right. Let's just look at the latest here. India said early Wednesday it conducted strikes on Pakistan 2 weeks after an attack by armed militants killed more than 24 civilians in India-administered Kashmir. That's right, they killed 24 civilians. It was pretty bad. The Indian government said its forces had struck 9 sites in Pakistan and on Pakistan's side of the disputed Kashmir region. Pakistan's government said it would not go unanswered. Then they gave kind of a silly, the temporary pleasure of India will be replaced by enduring grief. That kind of stuff. Does this stuff work better in what's the language? I'm forgetting the language. There's a couple languages in Pakistan. I'm forgetting the damn language. What is it? There's a couple though. Not Hindi. What's the big language in Pakistan? But does that work? Urdu. Yeah, I was going to say Urdu. Urdu is the one I was thinking. I guess Hindi is a big language in Pakistan, but Urdu is the one I was thinking of. But I mean, the temporary pleasure of India will be replaced by enduring grief. Doesn't that just sound kind of stupid? In English, it sounds really stupid. But is that the kind of stuff that in a foreign language sounds better? I'm always because you'll see that in the Middle East too. Remember how Saddam Hussein would always say, "You are a running dog that I will kick." And we were always like, okay, Saddam, that was really scary. I'm a running dog that you're going to kick. You know what I mean? It just always seems so weird. You wonder if it's a translation. Well, the thing is, it could be a cultural thing as well. It could be in Urdu. If you're Pakistani, you go, yeah, that's a statement. You know what I mean? The temporary pleasure of India will be replaced by enduring grief. It just sounds funny. But yeah, that's. I can look at the Wall Street Journal too, just to see, since I subscribe, assuming it's logged into my subscription. Let's see here. Any more? Oh my God. Already a subscriber. Don't mess with me. There we go. Did that work? Restore purchase. Account restored. No valid subscription found. What are you talking about? Oh my God. Now the Wall Street Journal is doing it to me too. Don't be evil. Don't be evil. Oh my God. Everything has me. This is very strange. Somehow I got I got logged out of all of my newspapers. Stop it. Sorry, this is pissing me off today. Log out. I'm going to log out and log back in. My prescription's for a year. My prescription hasn't ended. Sign in with Google. Let's try that. All right. Wrong Google. Oh, it wiped out my account, didn't it? How weird. Okay, we may have to do this later. I'm sure my Wall Street Journal is also a Google account. It's got to be. I don't know. Okay, I'm in. Okay, I'm in now. India said it conducted military strikes on 9 sites in Pakistan. We know that. Indian Defense Ministry said its forces carried out strikes on camps terrorists have used to stage attacks against India. India's actions came despite diplomatic efforts, including phone calls by U.S. Secretary of State Rubio to Pakistan's Prime Minister and India's Foreign Minister last week, aimed at persuading both sides to lessen tensions. This heinous provocation will not remain unanswered, the Pakistanians said. The rivals have inched closer to conflict since gunmen burst into a scenic meadow April 22nd in Indian-administered Kashmir and killed 26 people, mostly Indian tourists. See, that's the problem. They killed 26 tourists is pretty bad. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Joshua, for the gifts, guys. India accused Pakistan of having links to the attack. They identified 1 as a local militant and 2 as Pakistani militants. Pakistan's denied involvement. So, yeah. I mean, looking here. Is that now, though, or is that previous? I saw that. Thank you for the penguin, Ash. Both India and Pakistan claim all of Kashmir. The last clash over the region in 2019 after a suicide bomber killed 40 Indian. India retaliated with airstrikes against Pakistan. That's from the last one, though. Yeah, that's the last one. Okay, I'm not seeing anything about Pakistan shooting anything down yet. I believe you, but not seeing it. It may be true, but I could always try to do it. Well, I can look up. Actually, I can look at my. Where's my war lists here? My defense people. Actually, the Ukraine one is probably defense. I would think. Ukraine. Let's see. So I follow a lot of defense people on Twitter for my Ukraine stuff. Some of them may have weighed in about. Okay, Economist. Pakistan's information minister claims without evidence that Pakistan has shot down 2 Indian jets. We shot down 2 Indian planes and we are responding to Indian aggression right now as we speak. The Economist defense. So the defense editor of The Economist said that claim looks unlikely to me as of now. So The Economist is saying they don't believe the Pakistanis saying they shot down 2 Indian planes. So there you go. So it's out there, but you know. Well, that's not. Yeah, I mean, Mike is reading from the Pakistanis. A spokesperson for Pakistan's military tells CNN they have confirmed 2 Indian jets were shot. No, it's not. That's Pakistan claiming it shot down 2 jets. That's not confirmation. That's Pakistan saying it. Yeah, so we don't know. It's not good, though. I mean, there's going to be a back and forth. They both have nukes. Case India and Pakistan both have nuclear weapons. Now, there's no reason to really use them, so I'm not too worried about it in that sense. But they both have nukes. Yep. Oh. Well, India, Pakistan, I mean, India, Pakistan, I don't think like them bombing each other is necessarily shocking. You know what I mean? It may not have been happening recently, but, visiting India, I mean, somebody asked if I had any desire to visit India. Yes, I do, but I had a cousin who went to India and found it very disturbing. The poverty was just, he could not enjoy being on a nice vacation with the poverty that was there. It was too upsetting. And I will say, like going to Bali, I felt a little bit of that in Bali. India's more poor, I'm sure, or has greater poverty. Maybe not more poor overall, but the poverty is greater. But it was a little weird being in Bali and being rich. And basically you're rich because you're a Westerner. I mean, even if I'm not rich, in Bali, I'm rich. It's a little weird. And you feel a little uncomfortable because they're there and they're not rich. And you're there and you're clearly stinking rich. I didn't like that. and they're doing things for you and serving you and whatever. It was uncomfortable to me. I am told, at least by the one cousin, that India was felt even worse. Just the poverty was disturbing. That you feel, I mean, it's hard to look at it and be like, I'm on vacation. And it just, it's almost like if you went for work as a development person, great. But going for holiday, Pakistan, that's insane. Yeah, Elizabeth, a friend of hers just returned from a holiday in Pakistan. That's crazy. You do not go for a holiday in Pakistan as a Westerner. That's insane. That's insane. I can't imagine somebody doing that. That's crazy. Pakistan is not safe. It's never been safe for Westerners. I don't know if anybody can get them to cool it down. I mean, okay, well, he still shouldn't be going there, but yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't dare step foot in Pakistan. I don't know how it is now, but Pakistan is not safe for Americans. That's for sure. The embassy people have to live in a compound. It's hard to go out. Again, maybe things have gotten better. I doubt it, but maybe. Yeah, I don't believe that, Mike. I mean, Pakistani media claims a third of Indian fighters have been shot down. Sure. I mean, sure they have. Maybe, but Manana was in India last month for a friend's wedding. Now, that would be cool. I mean, the Indian weddings, if you've got money, Indian weddings can be insanely beautiful. Absolutely insanely beautiful. There's a wonderful Amazon series based on that. Made in Heaven, it's called. It's wonderful. It's about wedding planners in India, but it's a very socially conscious, kind of sharp commentary show. It's excellent. But it also gives you a look at the Indian weddings that are just insane. You could pay to attend a random Indian wedding. You know what's funny? They showed that on the TV show, but I didn't realize that was actually a thing. Wow. This TV show is stunning. If you have Amazon Video, it's called Made in Heaven, and you should watch it. Like I said, the show is really good. The social commentary is fascinating, but the views of the weddings are stunning. Every week there's another wedding or two, and they're all different places in India, so each one's a different culture. Oh my God, absolutely beautiful, just beautiful filming and everything. Oh, amazing. Yeah. Well, of course there's rich Indians. What do you mean? Excuse me. Not sure what you mean, AJ. I mean, only because I'm not trying to answer the question. What would happen if there were a limited nuclear exchange between India and Pakistan? People would die. I mean, I'm not sure what your question means. I mean, people would die. I mean, and one hopes it wouldn't continue, but the point is it could continue, because then India could launch another one, or they could try to take out each other's nukes. And then, for example, India could try to take out all of Pakistan's nukes after that. And if they're trying to take out all of their nukes, do you go and launch them first before India takes out all of them? And now you have a big nuclear war. But even for the rest of the world, I don't know what that means, AJ. What I mean is, we would freak out if they use their nukes. We would try to intervene and say, stop. I'm not sure any of us would have any luck doing that. With India, do the Russians have sway? I don't know who else has sway with India. We've got some sway, but I don't know. It'd be very bad. It would be very scary. Yes. Well, we're allies with Pakistan. Pakistan's a funny ally. And India's a funny ally. I mean, India, I don't even know if we're allies with India. We're friends with India. But, oh, interesting. Gunther says there's a BBC documentary called How Gay is Pakistan? Oh, that's interesting. Interesting. Bahamas. Yeah, Bahamas. Ugh. I mean, homophobic. I don't know that it's. I would have thought it would have been better than Pakistan, though. But still, who knows? Maybe not. No, I don't think India and Pakistan using nukes has nothing to do with Russia using nukes in Ukraine. No, there's no connection. Russia uses nukes in Ukraine, and granted, Trump getting involved, who knows? I think a lot of Trump's people would freak out. Trump, who knows if he'd freak out? The Europeans would absolutely freak out. Russia uses nukes in Ukraine, and honestly, we're close to a world war in Europe if that happens. Because the Europeans don't really have a choice if Russia uses nukes. They pretty much have to go in. and teach Russia a lesson not to use nukes. So I don't know, but that would be, I don't think Russia's not going to use nukes because they were used by India or Pakistan. It's not going to, there's no connection, fortunately. No. Chinese reactor out of thorium? No. Oh, safer and less water needed? I did not know that. When I think of thorium, I think of Star Trek. Was it a thorium web? What was it? I'm trying to remember. Remember the original Star Trek? Something like that. Wasn't that little thing they were knitting in space thorium or something like that? It wasn't, Robert. What was it? Tholian? Tholian web. There. Right before David, right before you wrote it, I thought Tholian. Yeah, there you go. Tholian web. Okay, not thorium. I was close. That's funny. Thanks, James, for the gift. Why hasn't Belarus got involved in the war? A couple of reasons. First of all, Belarus has helped Russia, so they've been involved. They've been helping, but they didn't invade. One big problem is Belarus is up here. Belarus, big dictatorship, friend of Putin. They would have to come across the border here, which is now a massive minefield. They would get chopped up if they came across here, so they can't really come up here. Second problem is they don't have that many troops. I want to say 70,000 or something. They're not very good troops. Belarus is a brutal dictatorship. If the military goes abroad to fight in Ukraine, who's keeping the peace at home from getting overthrown? The dictator. So that he can't afford to send his troops away because then they're not defending him. He also can't afford to have his troops get decimated because they're also not defending him at home against a coup, against a democratic coup, if they're dead or they're injured. So it is also possible, who knows? The Poles may have told the Belarusians, Poland's on the border. The Poles may have told the Belarusians, you invade, we're invading. I mean, they could have said, you know what? Don't even dare. You go in there, we're going to bomb the hell out of you. It's possible the Poles, I don't know if they have, but it's possible they have. Ryan, you're so close to getting banned. No one dropped a nuclear bomb in Yemen or Yemen wouldn't exist anymore, A. B, the entire world would have heard about it, so I'm not sure what kind of nonsense you're talking about. That's just silly. I think Ryan needs to take a timeout because that's just fucked up. We do not spread misinformation during this broadcast. Anyway, what else we got here? What else? Exactly. And what a surprise, may I just add, but we'll talk about it later. Yeah. The joke in Ukraine is Putin will keep the tanks they're sending for parades as they did with the aircraft. I don't know what that means, Scully. That I didn't understand that sentence. Try again, maybe. Yeah, Eurovision's coming up. I totally forgot about that. I heard somebody talking about it outside the other day. So is Eurovision the middle of the month, or when is it, guys? We'll have to do our Eurovision watch party that we like to do. When is that? Oh, did we drop like some big massive bomb on Yemen? Good. They're terrorists who are attacking international shipping. May 17th. Okay. We will do our watch party. Like we couldn't do it last year because I was flying. Was I flying back from Indonesia that day, or no? I was flying back from Chicago to DC that day. But we can do it this year, or my cousin's wedding, or not wedding, but birthday party or something like that. Yes, Frankie. Yesterday I mentioned over the weekend a Ukrainian drone took out, I think, 2 Russian fighters. I think. Well, it was a Ukrainian drone boat. So it was a drone boat that shoots stuff into the air, and the missiles or whatever it shoots in the air took out like 2 Russian aircraft, I believe. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. May 17. Okay. So that would be a week from Saturday, I'm assuming. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. A week from Saturday. Yeah, we'll do it. We'll have our watch party. So a week and a half from now, but yeah. U.S. Sidewinders. Interesting. From a boat drone. That's pretty wild, though. Thank you, Flybus, for the gifts. That's pretty wild. Wow. Yes, Jeff. Trump claimed that there was some kind of deal, truce worked out with Yemen, that they want to. Well, it said they won't attack American ships and we won't attack them. I have no idea if they're attacking other ships. The problem is, too, a lot of U.S. commerce would still go on ships that aren't American. Like most of the ships aren't American anyway. So I don't, Trump being Trump, it's not clear what he means. Hopefully something good was reached, but who the hell knows? Thank you, Spider. Thank you, Noni, for the gifts. Oh, Jeremy as well. Oh, I made more Greek bread today, so I'm looking forward to that cooling down after the show. Having a nice big slice. Nummy, nummy, nummy. I see, Deb. Sea drones equipped with Sidewinder missiles. Martin said the same thing. Okay, very cool. Very cool. Yeah, there's no confirmation, Caius. Caius was asking again about Pakistan saying it shot down 2 Indian fighter jets. I read something that I just read on Twitter from the Economist magazine's defense editor, Shashank, who says he doesn't believe it. He says they've offered no proof and he thinks it's not true. So at this point, it sounds like it's Pakistan, giving propaganda, basically. Could be true. Thank you, Robert. Or have a good night. But at this point, he doesn't believe it, so I don't think we should, What else? You on it? You again? Don't be yawning. We can see what else is on Twitter here. Well, it's Twitter. Yeah, it's called The Economist magazine's defense editor writing a tweet. It doesn't matter if he writes it on Twitter or on toilet paper. He's the Economist's defense editor. He knows more than any of us about this topic. So, yes, that's called when you read information, you use your brain and find the good information. Twitter is fine if you read good sources on Twitter. Twitter is a great source for good sources. Yeah. I don't follow idiots. What else we got going here? Ooh, Greece is refusing to transfer Patriot missiles to Ukraine, or Patriot systems, although that could be the Americans that got them involved. Lots of misinformation already flying about Jesus. What? Jesus. Russian officials have announced plans to transfer 50,000 children from Russian-occupied areas of Ukraine to camps in Russia for the summer. This is from the U.S. Helsinki Commission, which is, a government body that is very trustworthy. This is an alarming escalation in Russia's genocidal campaign to Russify Ukrainian children. They're taking 50,000, and this is from the Republican and the Democrat. Wow. They're basically kidnapping 50,000 Ukrainian children and sending them to camps in Russia. These people are unbelievable. Putin, by the way, who's a war criminal, Putin was indicted for war crimes by the International Criminal Court because the Russians have kidnapped so many Ukrainian children. They literally invaded Ukraine and stole children. Part of Russia's plan going in was to kidnap Ukrainian children, bring them to Russia, and turn them into Russians to help solve their democratic problem, but also, their demographic problem, but also part of it was to destroy Ukraine. If you steal all the children, who's going to grow up and become Ukrainian? So that was part of the idea, too, was to cripple Ukraine for generations. Really was unbelievable. But they've just kidnapped 50,000 Ukrainian children and sent them to camps in Russia. Man, these people are something else. Absolutely something else. It just, yeah. But that's good. What the Republican co-chair of the commission is speaking out, which is good. That's very good. Wow, that's wild. Let's see here. NDTV says India used Scalp cruise missiles and Hammer smart bombs fired from French-made Rafale fighter jets. That would fit with the depth of the targets over the borderline. So that's the defense. I'm looking here to see what else is from the defense editor, like I said, at The Economist. See what else he's got. Oh, by the way, we talked about this, about Pakistan making up the fact that it shot down the Indian jets. This is also The Economist defense editor. Pakistan's information minister, speaking to the BBC, has just come up with an entirely new number.
Having earlier said Pakistan downed 2 planes, he now says that Pakistan has shot down 3 of their planes. Maybe by morning it'll be a whole squadron. He does not believe the Pakistani defense spokesman. Wait, what? Wait, what? Earlier this year urged the Ukrainian government to accept a specific number of U.S. deportees for citizens of other countries. I don't know what that means. Okay. I'll have to read this one later. So I'm just trying to see like what else is going on in the news here as we're, oh shit, what happened there? Sorry. One more time. There we go. Okay. His prediction, this is again Shashank, who's the defense editor of The Economist magazine. His prediction, Pakistan will respond probably in kind, meaning with the same number of bombs, etc., and probably in a way also designed to project restraint. This is far, far, far likelier than some escalatory spiral that leads to a larger war. Okay. He is not concerned that things are going to go out of control. I don't know. Interesting. Interesting. All right. Okay. Well, we shall see. We shall see. We shall see. What else, guys? What else? Who let Pakistan have nukes? It's been a long time. I don't know the history of Pakistan getting nukes, but it's been a while. Like, God, 1970s, 1980s? When the hell did Pakistan get nukes? I can ask Alexa. She's kind of dumb. Alexa, when did Pakistan get nuclear weapons? Oh, come on. Hey, Google, when did Pakistan get nuclear weapons? On the website armscontrolcenter.org, they say India became a nuclear power in 1974. Oh, 1970. Oh, interesting. Interesting. India was 1974. Pakistan was 1998. Hey, Google's quiet. That's interesting. Okay, that's very interesting. Yeah, that was Callum last night, Linda. Callum is one of our moderators and a friend who's former British military going back like 10 years. So he's quite expert at defense issues and very smart, very interesting guy. So yeah, he just happened to be visiting. So it was his idea. He goes, "Let me come. I'll come on the show an hour." I was like, "Okay, we'll do it." 1974. That's wild. Wow, and it took Pakistan until 1998 to get them. Yeah, Callum's fabulous. Yeah. Has a beautiful baby. Just got married yesterday. Very exciting. What else we got? What else, guys? News-wise? They called it Smiling Buddha. That's a bit of a weird name for the bomb. It's a little weird. Well, the wedding was at the courthouse. It was a little I almost was going to go, but they were like, they had to wait in line 5 hours. So I was like, you're on your own. I mean, it wasn't a wedding. They went out and self-officiated as well. So it wasn't, if it was a wedding, I would have gone, yes, but they self-officiated. What else? But your dog turns 2 on Sunday. Woo-woo. Hopefully he stops growing. Yeah, India and Pakistan, we've talked about. The Indians bombed Pakistan. The Pakistanis look like they may have responded. Whether it continues and gets bigger, who knows? We don't know. So are we going to have food scarcity? That I don't know. It depends. I mean, if the tariffs on Mexico go into place, yes. Beyond that, I don't know. We do get some food from China. That's going to be a problem. Tea, spices. We were talking the other day, a lot of our salmon is processed in China. Let's see. If Trump, well, even the China tariffs are bad. They're going to cause problems on store shelves overall. Let's see if Trump, when the 90 days runs out, well, his 10% tariffs are not helping. They're not going to cause shortages, but they're going to cause prices to go up. Let's see what happens, in 90 days if he puts the tariffs back on for everybody. Yeah, he offered to pay the migrants $1,000 each to leave. Not migrants, they're not migrants. They're people who are here illegally. Migrants are people who come here to work and go home. I never like the term migrants because I think it's disingenuous. It's dishonest. Not your fault. It's the term they use, but it's a fake term. Migrants are people who come and work for the summer and then go home. Migrants are not people who cross the border illegally to stay and live here forever. Trump said he was going to pay people who are here illegally $1,000 a person to go back home, which honestly, I said yesterday, I'm agnostic. It's not the worst idea. I mean, okay. It doesn't, at least it's humane, but they're not undocumented. That's my problem. I don't buy in all the PC. They're not undocumented. They didn't lose their passport. They came here illegally. I just think we play games with that stuff. If I sneak into France, I would love to live in Europe. If I sneak into Europe to live there forever, I'm going to get arrested and kicked out, and I expect to get arrested. I'm not undocumented. If I sneak into Europe, I'm a criminal. I literally illegally in a million years, I can't even imagine sneaking into France or Italy or the UK, sneaking myself across the border. You would arrest me and kick me out, and you would have every right to kick me out because it would be really obnoxious if I did that. So that's the thing that drives me nuts. And by the way, we have international humanitarian law. We have get in line with everybody else who's trying to come to the U.S. for humanitarian reasons. You do not get to cut the line because you came here. I would argue, if you come here illegally, you should be at the back of the line because a lot of people come to the U.S. illegally. They apply for asylum, legally. People come here legally. They get in line legally. They wait. I met my Uber driver last night who was from Mauritania. I've never met anybody from Mauritania. He was from Mauritania. He got the lottery visa. He waited until he got the lottery visa and he came to the U.S. So I do not have sympathy for people who come here illegally when everybody else has to wait in line. I think it's rude. I do. I think it's rude. I think they skirt the line and I don't like it because there's a lot of poor people around the world who would love to come to America. And I don't think you get to come here first just because you live nearby and you come across the border. I think it's wrong. So, and I also believe you don't have the right to come here just because you're poor. That's not the way it works. We can't have our border open to everybody who's poor. No, that's insane, but it really is. And somebody has got to say, it's not even a hot take. It's obvious. We can't have open border. We're going to have open borders for anybody who's poor. We can't do that. You let the border open to a certain degree. You let a certain number of people come each year based on poverty, based on ethnicity, whatever it is, based on, of course, the politics too. And you let a certain number of people come into your country each year. That is obvious. That's obvious immigration policy. No, I would challenge anybody who disagrees to tell us right now, tell people here that you think the border should be open and we should let everybody in. Literally everybody? Nobody believes that. Nobody who's sane believes that. No, no, but Trump is doing his bullshit with the $5 million. You think I'm going to defend Trump? That's insane. And a lot of bad people could come in with that too, which we don't want, but no, I'm sorry. I think Democrats have gone off the deep end on the immigration stuff and they've got to be careful with it. It's just, because I've known lots of people who've wanted to come to this country and they couldn't come. You don't get to skirt the line. If you skirt the line, you go to the back of the line because a lot of people get in line. Even if political asylum or any kind of asylum, we have a process for asylum. If it's political or whatever, follow the process. Don't sneak across the river because I don't believe you. The other problem, by the way, I've said this before. You're not a political refugee if you come to the U.S. via 10 other countries. If you leave Venezuela and you go to Colombia and Panama and Guatemala and El Salvador and Nicaragua and Mexico and then come to the U.S., you're not a political asylum anymore. You're not fleeing poverty. You're not fleeing anything. You simply wanted to live in the U.S. If it was political asylum, you would have stopped in Colombia or Panama, right? If it's poverty, Colombia is doing a lot better. You could live in Colombia, live in Mexico, but you came all the way to the U.S. because you wanted to live in the U.S. That's my other problem. This is not about poverty. This is not about political asylum. It's not about asylum either if you went to other countries first, right? The whole point is get you out of the bad country and then go somewhere else, No, I'm sorry. I think, like I said, Democrats have gone way too far left on the immigration thing, and most Americans do not agree with them. You can disagree. That's fine. I don't mind. But you know, yeah, I'm not going to quote the Pakistani military spokesman. I just don't believe them. Well, that's a different question. Gunther's talking about mass amnesty. That's a different question. One of the things you got to pay attention to is people who are already here. And we've seen in American history, by the way, when you treat an entire class of people as second-class citizens, it can cause a lot of problems in the country that get worse and worse and never go away. And we did it with African Americans, right? With slaves, and I mean with slaves, and then even after they weren't slaves anymore, we still mistreated them and didn't give them full rights and everything else. And look what that's done, right? That did not help us as a country. The Germans have had the problems with Turks, other European countries. I mean, you don't want to create an underclass. We should have learned from history, creating an underclass is a bad thing. It's not just bad morally, it's bad for the country, right? And crime, I mean, poverty, all sorts of problems it can create. So that I think like people that are already here, if they don't have a criminal record, I would agree with Gunther. But I would also say, but it's one time and it's gone. If you're here illegally, you get the process. But anybody else coming illegally, that's it. Because otherwise the problem is in terms of politics, you literally create a system where everybody comes. If they say, well, if you're here illegally, the Americans will give you a citizenship as long as you don't commit any crimes. We should all go to America. You can't have that. So this would have to be like a one-time deal that you would give amnesty or whatever. But it's true. You don't want millions of people living here as second-class citizens. That's stupid. I mean, that's just stupid. So, anyway. Correct. Exactly. One-time amnesty, then we shore up our immigration laws and enforcement. Yeah, I agree on that. I agree. No, again, zero sympathy if you're here illegally. I'm sorry. But generally speaking, I don't get to go live in Italy and France, and I'd love to. And I know I wouldn't be whining about it if they arrested me. Well, it's not fair. Give me a break. If I'm there illegally, they're going to arrest me in France. And I'm going to expect to be arrested. And they're not going to find new words to describe me and say, well, he's not really there illegally. Of course I'd be there illegally. No, you can't do that. And again, I say it because too many Democrats are too far on the left on this. Even now, I mean, I'm not even looking at the TikTok comments anymore because everyone went crazy. You can't even say something obvious like people shouldn't be coming here illegally. And everybody freaks out. Come on, guys. I mean, give me a break. That is proof positive of why the Democrats have a problem. Now, Obama was tough as shit on immigration. Obama was great. There was that Obama video going around from like 2012 or whenever it was of Obama basically saying, we need to find what Gunther just said. We need to find a path for the folks who are already here. He said they get to the end of the line. They don't get the front of the line. Everyone else who's already legally trying to get citizenship comes first. There's a long path. They've got to keep their nose clean, no crimes, blah, blah, blah. And that's it. And then we make sure the border is holed up nicely. Obama was great on this, But then you've got, exactly as Carol just said, hijacked by both. Then you've got the other side that just wants to throw everybody out and be inhuman, and break laws and be inhuman about it. Guess what? You can be in the middle on issues and it's okay. And this is one of those issues where people want us to think, oh, don't you dare have an opinion, because if you're not MAGA, then you've got to be open borders. No, you actually can be in the middle on immigration and it's okay. And people can disagree with you, and maybe they're even right if they disagree with you. They're not the enemy if they disagree with you. So, anyway, America is not a nice place to live anymore. Not if you're a foreigner, I would say, correct. An immigrant at all, I would be a little careful about living here, to be honest. Yeah. I'd be very careful about that. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. Well, Republicans never would give Obama credit. I mean, you're right, but, they're never going to give Obama credit, right? No, and the Trump stuff, we've talked about the Trump stuff. It's crazy what he's doing. He's breaking the law left and right, So, and the Ukrainians that are here are scared too, right? Because Trump's talking about kicking them out. They should be scared. It's terrible. And again, they came legally. That's the point. People come here legally. We should welcome them. Illegally? No. What else, guys? What else? Anyway, see, but this is what I mean. Like, this is one of those topics. This is the problem on the left, though. I do say, like, you just there are a number of issues that are, and by the way, all this really does is you make people not want to discuss these issues. We talked about this. I won't talk about the Israel stuff much with you guys because people get obnoxious. So I just won't talk about it. And you've convinced a top creator not to talk about Israel and Palestine. Okay, congratulations. I won't talk about trans issues a lot. Same problem. Race issues, you've got to be very careful. If you talk about those, you get in trouble. So I tend to avoid them. I mean, I'll talk about civil rights abuses, but otherwise, this is why I get upset about this. When people get obnoxious about you disagreeing with them on these topics, all you're doing is convincing creators not to talk about these topics. And if you think that helps, I got news for you. So yeah. Oh, well, anyway, anything else? I don't want to talk about this. I mean, I hate this topic because all it does is turn into stupid stuff. And all it means is I'm not going to talk about immigration. So congratulations. Anyway, thank you, Amelie. What else, guys? Some other topic, not talking about this anymore. Oh, I saw that. Oh my God. Trump's Secretary of Education sent a letter to Harvard bitching them out for, being Harvard. And the letter read like, the bread was already done. Thank you, BC. The letter read like it was written by a child, like literally a high schooler, either a high schooler or a college student who doesn't know how to write. It was, and mind you, it was a letter from the Secretary of Education. I don't know that I retweeted it. The problem is you kind of have to read a lot of the letter to get to the point where you're like, yeah, this is just like not a very good, here we go. Oh, somebody edited it though. Here, let me, okay, here we go. This is fabulous. Somebody edited the letter. If you guys can see the writing on it, it starts with the federal government. I want to show you this. The federal government, they capitalize the F and the G. There is no capital F and G in federal. This isn't German. We don't capitalize nouns. The federal government. I mean, what does that even mean? Federal government is capitalized. The first two, the second and third word are wrong. Has a sacred responsibility to be a wise and important steward. Oh my God. The federal government has a sacred responsibility to be a wise and important steward of American taxpayer dollars. Wise and important. I want to find this here. Harvard is engaging in a systematic pattern of violating federal law. Where do many of these students come from? Students in quotes. Okay, but they are students. Why are they in quotes? They're not scare quotes. Why is there so much hate? HATE, all caps. Again, what the, you wouldn't write this. These are questions that must be answered among many more. Okay, these are questions that must be answered among many more. But the biggest question of all is, why will Harvard not give straightforward answers to the American public? Again, this was written by a child. This year, Harvard was forced to adopt an embarrassing remedial math program for undergraduates. Why is it, we ask, that Harvard has to teach simple and basic mathematics when it is supposedly so hard to get into this acclaimed university? Okay, the Trump people are a little confused. If Harvard has to teach remedial mathematics, it's not Harvard's fault. It's the high schools and the grade schools' fault. The point is, kids are coming. That's what they're doing. By the way, thank you, Laurie. What that sentence really means is they're talking about black and brown people. And they're not afraid. They're afraid to say it. what the Trump people are suggesting is that the remedial math is for those people who wouldn't have gotten in, is what they're really saying. Yeah. And I got news for you. I'm really good at math. Nobody can do math. When I went to graduate school, we had to take the GREs, and it's a math score and an English score. Everybody did great on English. I did great on math. Everybody sucked at math. All my colleagues sucked at math. They got into grad school anyway, but people can't do math. Math is hard. I mean, math is hard. English is hard too, but I think math is harder. Math is maybe more niche in a way, right? Like if you're smart, you should be pretty good at English, I would say. If you're smart, that doesn't necessarily mean you're good at math. I think you're probably better at, right? Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's true. I like math, but I think it's a little more, like I said, common for you to be better at English. By the way, anybody who's not American, when we say English, we mean literature, writing, writing essays, analyzing literature, things like that. Because math is hard. English is hard too. Literature is hard too, but you know what I'm saying. It's a different thing. Let's hold on. Oh, God. Listen, Harvard, again, this is a letter from the Secretary of Education to Harvard University president. Harvard has even been embroiled in humiliating plagiarism scandals exposed clearly and plainly in the media with respect to your then university president, who was an embarrassment to our nation. Oh, to our nation. And of course, nation's capitalized, of course. They capitalized nation, to your then university president, who was an embarrassment to our nation. And again, capital N. This, I don't even want to say ChatGPT. This sounds to me like a foreigner wrote it, to be honest. That sentence doesn't even sound American English to me. This is really funny. Oh my God. Wait, what is this? They're also run on, listen to this. The Harvard Corporation, which is supposed to competently and professionally manage Harvard's vast academic, financial, and physical resources, is run by strongly left-leaning Obama political appointee Penny Pritzker, a Democratic operative who is catastrophic and running the institution in a totally chaotic way. That was one sentence I just read. That was one freaking sentence there. I mean, yeah, this is really funny. I love that somebody literally edited the entire letter in red. It's real. That was a hell of a run-on. That was particularly bad. This entire essay, though, another one. This entire essay is run-ons. Ackman has called for the resignation of Pritzker, concluding that the mismanagement here is Penny Pritzker, and noting that any serious corporation would have removed her after a litany of recent failings and the fact that, incredibly, Harvard is not in a good financial position. One sentence. These people are insane. They can't speak English. Perhaps most alarmingly, Harvard has failed to abide by the United States Supreme Court ruling demanding that it end its racial profiling and continuing to engage in ugly racism in its undergraduate and graduate schools, and even within the Harvard Law Review itself. You get it. This whole thing is, every sentence is 4 lines long. It's boggling. Oh my God. This is a, oh, I don't have the next page. Oh shit. This is like a 6-line sentence. The proposed common sense reforms with the administration remains committed to include a return to merit-based admissions and hiring, an end to unlawful programs that promote crude identity stereotypes, disciplinary reform, and consistent accountability, including for student groups, cooperation with law enforcement, and reporting compliance with the Department of Education, Department of Homeland Security, and other. And it goes on to the next page, and they didn't have the other page. Yes. I think somebody needs an English class over at the, but again, Department of Education, and the woman can't write a letter. She has staff that can't write letters as the Department of Education because they hired a bunch of activists, is why. I mean, that's pretty pathetic. That is very pathetic. Wow. It's all. It should be all over. Just Google Secretary of Education letter to Harvard. You should find it. Yeah, it would be funny if Harvard edited it. I doubt Harvard did it. Somebody else did. That was great. That in red. Also, even in red, they missed a few things. There were some hyphens that should have been in there. Like the then university president should have been a hyphen. I would argue. But also those sentences. You cannot make a sentence that's 6 lines long. You can't. I mean, you can't. I mean, I'm a big stickler about writing, and especially you're the Secretary of Education. Your letters better be, and you're lecturing Harvard about being a poor teacher, right? You don't teach people well. Your letter better be freaking proofread and perfect. And they didn't even think of saying, hey, so-and-so can write. Let's have them either write the letter or let's have them read the letter first and proofread it, right? I mean, man. AI being A1? Well, that's a whole other question. France launched a campaign today for scientists and basically scientists to come to France, to come to Europe and to come to France especially. I was like, ooh, very saucy of them. Don't blame them, but very saucy. You know. Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't even know. I mean, I don't know if I would be curious. Like, I'd be curious with a letter like that. Actually, I'm kind of curious here. Hold on. I'm kind of curious. Like to say, let me try this just for fun. I'm going to save the photo. I'm going to save the first page. I'm going to go to ChatGPT and say, just for fun. This letter is very poorly written, period. I want you to rewrite it, comma, keep the substance the same, comma, but make it better English. For example, there are a lot of run-on sentences and grammar mistakes. Let's just see what it does for fun. The only thing is ChatGPT can be very wordy. So there is that risk, you know, that it may not do as good a job. Now, what does crack me up is literally here's a rewritten version and it's already ready. I mean, that's what kind of blows my mind. Dear Dr. Garber, the federal government has a solemn responsibility to serve as a wise and accountable steward of American tax dollars. So it is still saying that. Harvard, despite having amassed a large endowment, continues to receive billions of taxpayer dollars each year. This public support is a privilege, not a right, and it carries with it an obligation to serve the public good through the education of students. That sounds good. Yet Harvard appears to have engaged in a systematic pattern of conduct that may violate federal law. Key questions must be addressed, : where do many of Harvard's students come from? Who are they? How do they gain admission? I mean, it is better written. Harvard has invited foreign students who have engaged in violent behavior. The university has failed to meet its legal obligations. I mean, this certainly reads better. I'd be curious for it to do a side-by-side. Provide me a side-by-side of the original and how you edited it. I've been like enjoying ChatGPT. Other than ChatGPT lying to me, I'm curious if you can give me the side-by-side so I can see like the paragraph by paragraph, like what it did. That's very interesting though. But of course it did it in 10 seconds. And it does. It, at least reading it out loud, it got rid of the run-ons for starters, which were huge. Now you'd have to literally compare the letters to make sure that, it didn't miss stuff, right? Here's a side-by-side. Oh, that's hard to read. Oh, I see. The first one, the federal government has a sacred responsibility to be a wise and important steward of American taxpayer dollars. Harvard University, despite amassing a largely tax-free $50 billion endowment, larger than GDP of 100 countries, receives billions of dollars of taxpayer largesse each year. It wrote, the federal government has a solemn responsibility to serve as a wise and accountable steward of American taxpayer dollars. Harvard University, despite having amassed a largely tax-free endowment of $53 billion. This sounds the same, though. Yeah, it'd have to be a side-by-side. That's too hard to see. Yeah, I'd have to see. Very interesting, though. Very interesting. Which ChatGPT is tough? I sort of default to the 4.0 or whatever it is. Somebody today was telling me I ought to try the 3.0, maybe. I get very confused which one to use, to be honest. You know, it's a little hard to. It's just a little hard for me to figure out which one to use. So I just try the 4.0. It's cool. The only thing is it gets things wrong. I was looking at stuff with Callum. We were looking at some legal stuff. It got some stuff wrong. And it was wrong that I as a lawyer said, well, do you mean this or do you mean this? And it said, oh, I mean this. And I said, like it reached a conclusion that was frankly wrong because it misunderstood something. We were like looking at law in DC versus law in Virginia and this kind of stuff. And it gave me an answer. And I said, okay, but didn't you mean that answer was applying to the law in DC and not the law in Virginia? And it said, oh, yeah. If it were Virginia, it would be different. And I was like, I told you it was Virginia. Oh, but it got it wrong. So it does weird things like that. Yemen, we just had a ceasefire in Yemen, wheelchair. We're not having a war in Yemen. We just had a ceasefire. So things are fine in Yemen. And Canada is not for sale. That is true. Canadian Prime Minister told Trump today. So that was good. Hopefully ChatGPT is learning. I mean, the newest, like I said, it gets a lot of stuff wrong, which is worrisome. But it gets a lot of it, the analysis is it has done some interesting analysis when I've pulled it up before. It has done some interesting analyses. So, we'll see. It's only going to get better and better. Also, it gets better as people work with it. And, it also needs, honestly, it needs feedback. Like it almost needs to ask you occasionally and say, tell me how good that answer was. And have me say, okay, you kind of did this, you did this, so that it kind of starts to learn. For example, I had to tell it, I don't know what it still does. I had to tell it, don't guess. Give me an answer if you know the answer. If you're guessing the answer, tell me you are guessing the answer. Don't tell me it's this, which is what ChatGPT will do a lot. And if you're telling me an answer, tell me why you think it's an answer. If you're basing it on other websites, tell me. Or on very good, like if you're basing it on the New York Times and the Wall Street Post, that's even better, right? But if you're basing it on Joe Blow's website, I'm a little worried as to why you think it's true. But hopefully it still fascinates me. Thank you, Sharon, for the gift. It still fascinates me. I mean, it's an amazing tool, it will get there. Oh, that's interesting. Pecos Bill says the renaming of the Gulf of America is not official until it passes legislation in both houses. Oh, I didn't know that. That's very interesting. Thank you, Jocelyn. Interesting. Very interesting. Yep. Pakistan and India are fighting. We've talked about it a few times. It does not tell you when it's guessing. No. And that's one of the problems that I don't like about it. Yep. So a little annoying indeed. All right, guys, we've been doing this for an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes. I'm going to go. All right. Thank you for joining us. I will be back tomorrow, 6:00 Eastern time, US, every day. Well, Monday to Friday, every day. We do our show talking about the latest news from Washington and the latest news from the war in Ukraine. And thanks for joining us. This went a little long tonight, but that's okay. I didn't have much news, but you never know. We can still go long anyway. We went a little long, but that's all right. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off. We'll start with Discord as always, and I'll see the rest of you tomorrow. I am not somebody's asking about Grand Theft Auto. I am not a Grand Theft Auto guy. I've never liked, I don't like first person shooter games and all of that. I like Dungeons and Dragons, Neverwinter Nights, Baldur's Gate. Those kind of games are the games. I want to be a wizard. I don't want to walk around shooting a gun. So I am not up on my, other than I read it got delayed a year or something. I'm not up on my Grand Theft Auto. Callum was telling me about it. All right. Signing off of Discord. Actually, Discord was over anyway. People were gone, I mean. All right. YouTube, have a good night. Oop. And then TikTok. All right.